Juventini. Welcome to episode 112 of the All Juvecast. And we had a tougher matchup versus Roma. Very, very fortunate to come out with a 2-2 draw. But we're going to recap that. We're going to take in a lot of questions that come from Twitter, and we're just going to give our overview and opinions on kind of what went down. And I have joining me, making his second appearance on the All Juvecast, AJ. AJ, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. I'm ready to try and tackle some of these questions with very, very mixed emotions from Juventini. The second official match for our new fearless leader, Pirlo. And the nice thing I did notice is it seems that there's a little bit more patience. With most,
sure.
Which I think there should be, most Juventini. But let's start off right out of the gate with the starting lineups, AJ. So we've got Tech in goal. We had Cuadrado, Bonucci, De Ligt, and Danilo. And then listed in the middle of the park was Kulusevski, Rabiot, McKennie, Ramsey, with Morata and CR7 up top. Now, I was excited when I saw the list of names, but I envisioned something completely different than what we got. I was not expecting that 3-5-2 kind of formation. I was trying to think about this, and I was thinking, it looked to me like he was going to go to the four-back system, maybe like a 4-2-3-1 type scenario, using Ramsey and Kulusevski also defensively. But that was definitely not the case. What were your thoughts when you heard this initial lineup, and what were you thinking?
Yes, I was very surprised, even though before the Sampdoria game, we also did not expect that lineup. So in this game, we were expecting something very similar to Sampdoria because that works really well. But I was surprised that Cuadrado was playing at left back, which for me is very weird. I don't think he's at Juve ever played on that side. And I was surprised to see Morata in the starting lineup. It's still an away game, and he's been at the club for 2 or 3 days. So that also was surprising to me. So having McKennie and Rabiot and Ramsey also makes sense. So this wasn't a surprise. And the three at the back were the same as the previous game. So that was also okay. But mainly Cuadrado being at left back and Morata at striker were the two main surprises for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it was definitely not what I expected when they lined up on the pitch and I saw Cuadrado on the left and I saw Kulusevski was going to be used on the right in that wing-back type role. That kind of changed the optimism into some skepticism, really, on my part. I was just thinking, I'm not so sure about it. But we'll see what they can do. And we get to the match, and Roma was very, very good in this one. I will give credit where credit was due. Roma played a really, really good match. It didn't take long for them. They were coming at us right out of the gate. In the 11th minute, we had a pretty brutal giveaway. And Mkhitaryan actually came at us, and he absolutely undressed Bonucci. And Bonucci does his classic technique, I'm sure everyone's seen the million memes going around, but he gets beat really, really badly. And Szczesny makes a great save on Mkhitaryan. Keeps it at 0-0 there.
I thought he was gonna score, to be honest. So
absolutely, I thought that was it right out of the gate. We're gonna be down, and luckily Tech saved it. As the minutes climb, Juve gets a little bit more possession, but struggling to find any space with the way Roma was set up in that back line. spreading out there with the 5. They were just having a really tough time, and it looked not as free flowing as it was against Sampdoria. It looked a little more rigid. Almost Morata was staying at the top centrally, but Ronaldo was keeping to his left. So when we did switch field and get the ball to Kulusevski, it looked like he had little to no options. And he, essentially was out on a byline to himself for the most part. Ramsey would come over occasionally. They did work a decent give and go with Kulusevski making these defenders look really bad in the 21st minute, but he gets the ball into Ramsey. Ramsey puts a nice low hard clearance in. It gets cleared. In the 29th minute, 8 minutes later, again, a really, really poor giveaway by Juventus. Very, very lazy. I believe this one was Ramsey going to McKennie with a guy draped all over McKennie. Roma comes back at us immediately. Rabiot prevents the cross from going, but he leaves it at the top of the area, and Veretout comes in and smashes one, and Rabiot's arms out in no man's land, it hits it. He gets the yellow. Roma gets the PK. Veretout steps out, and Szczesny, so unlucky. He's got to stop that if he's able to get that hand. That. He's got to get it. He guessed right. He did everything right. He just couldn't stop it. But 1-0 Roma. And, I was feeling pretty frustrated because, again, it was a brutal giveaway by our partner. We gave them 3 or 4 counters at this point based on just lazy passing. So, what were you feeling so far at this point? This is about a half hour into the match. We're down 1-0. What were your thoughts here, AJ?
I feel that one of the weaknesses of having 3 at the back is that you concede so many counter attacks. So the team did not look as organized as it was against Roma. And as you mentioned, there were like 2 or 3 occasions where we give away the ball and then Roma get like a very, very clear chance. So I think this is something that Pirlo will have to work on, because this match was against Roma. So imagine what a Bayern would do, for example, in the Champions League with their super fast wingers. So we conceded a penalty, and Tech was super close into saving it, but unfortunately he did not. So I was kinda losing some confidence in the team at this point, because Pirlo set the bar really high in the first game. So everything was much better than what we expected. So if this was the first game against Roma, then it makes sense. The new coach, new system. But we're also judging this game based on what we saw in Sampdoria. So it was a little disappointing. And so that was my thought up until that point.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, the bar was set high. Everybody wants to say, obviously, like fans are just taking one match against Sampdoria, getting fired up. Well, it's okay to be excited and fired up, because honestly, that was some of the best football we've seen from Juventus in quite some time when it came to overall team play. So it's okay to get excited. This one, was a letdown because it wasn't as cohesive. You talk about it, the counters we allowed. What I noticed that was the big difference in this particular match was, number one, the right side, as far as support from the wing back defensively, was essentially not there, because Kulusevski he was playing it in a different manner than what we had when we had Quadrado and Frabotta there against Sampdoria. And our line as well. Those 3, Danilo, Bonucci, Chiellini, they weren't supporting the press against Roma. And I'm not 100% sure if that was instructed by Pirlo or if it was a little bit of fear from how Roma was attacking us. But essentially, with them pushing the line back, and those guys dropping back, we created this pocket in behind McKennie and Rabiot that it was easy for Roma to find their players, and they were easily able to turn and come at us. We lost that that line, that support from the back there it was very, very strange. And that's what I mean by the cohesiveness. McKennie had a good game against Sampdoria. He seemed a few steps off throughout this entire match. A couple steps off.
Yeah, I think he still needs to gain the tactical maturity to play in Serie A. So yeah. Plus, Kulusevski in this match was so far away from goal, and that's why I think he was ineffective. So maybe similar to the Dybala situation, when he plays as a second striker, he's close to the goal. He has the pace, but when he plays far away from goal, then he's not as effective.
Yeah. And that's why I think when I saw that lineup, I got so excited, because I see names like Kulusevski and Ramsey in there, as well as Morata and CR7. So my mind starts to work it out as a 4-2-3-1, almost attacking, but then defensively probably shifted into like a 4-4-2, utilizing the Ramsey and Kulusevski defensively. That was obviously not what the case. And yeah, you're right. We kind of rendered Kulusevski a little bit useless and took him out of the game ourselves. I think he needs to be in and around that area. He's got the technical skill, no doubt, and he's a big, strong kid. I don't think he has the pace to play out there on that wingback style role. He looked he's not as quick as I thought he would be, to be honest. Takes him a while to get that acceleration going, but I always thought it would be Ramsey and Kulusevski and possibly Dybala rotating in that position that's just behind the forwards in Pirlo's type setup. So that was one of the things that was really weird here, but we'll get going into the 32nd minute here. Ronaldo gets the ball out wide, finds himself out wide, puts in a great cross. Ramsey just couldn't get to it. But nice to see a positive reaction after going 1-0 down. And about 10 minutes later, we get our own PK drawn by Ronaldo, getting the ball out to him wide. He beats his man, comes in, tries to cut a pass across, and Lorenzo Pellegrini gets caught with a handball. For some reason, he did not get a yellow card, as Rabiot did. We get the PK, Ronaldo scores 1-1. Death, taxes, and Cristiano finishing a PK.
I hope we don't jinx it.
yeah, knock on wood here. 1-1, start to feel better. Obviously we've drawn level. Let's see if we can pick it up now, because we've kind of been sleepwalking through it and see what we can do. But honestly, after that goal, not a whole lot changed. We, for the most part, Juve was doing well in possession. It was just finding the opportunities, finding that edge in the final third, right? And the scary part was just Roma was committed to countering us. They were just committing. They were sending numbers in waves, and it was, again, with that line, not keeping that pressure, that high press. Yeah, we were just allowing them to do this. And 45th minute, we get a set piece. And for some reason, in a 1-1 game, we only have, I believe, Cuadrado and maybe one other guy back.
Yeah, I was like, why is the entire team around the penalty area? If you're losing the game and it's the last minute, then it makes sense. But
it blew my mind, right? Stupid. It was a 1-1 match. You're going into halftime. You just tied it. You've kind of wiped out this momentum that Roma had. And there's a battle. We put the free kick in. It's a pretty poor one, gets cleared by the first line. And then it's a couple headers back and forth. And Roma just sent players, and our players started to track back, but then they stopped because they thought, you could see them for a split second, they thought we were going to win that possession back. The second they stopped, Roma's three players continued, and that was it. The ball went through, and they were off to the races. Just Cuadrado. It was Spinazzola, Veretout, I believe Mkhitaryan, and maybe one other. And they're just running at Cuadrado. McKennie tries his damnedest to get back, but it's too late. Veretout takes one touch and slots home. And now we're down 2-1 at half. And my God, you just couldn't help but feel it was such an avoidable goal.
Yeah, exactly. The entire team was near the penalty area, and Roma, and you already know that Roma have already got 2 or 3 clear chances from counterattacks. So you should know that doing this in the last minute of the first half is just nonsense. So the way we considered this goal was frustrating because, as you mentioned, it's very avoidable. Right?
Yeah. So we hit halftime, and it's 2-1 Roma, and I'm thinking, geez, you've got to make a change. I think there's a couple things you could see right out of the gate. Number one, Morata did not look ready. You could make an argument for one of those positions in the midfield to get changed. McKennie was struggling. Rabiot was doing okay, but he had a yellow and he was kind of aggressive, But I probably wouldn't have made that change right at half. That's a tough one. But I think you got to make a decision between Kulusevski and Ramsey and get Frabotta in there and switch Cuadrado to the right side. But overall, we needed more urgency, and the tempo was way off what we saw against Sampdoria. We played very, very slow. We were not moving the ball quickly. It just seemed out of sorts. At halftime, what were your thoughts? Would you have made any changes?
I mean, it's easy to say that, I would have subbed out Rabiot, but we're only saying this because we know that he got sent off and he was too aggressive in the second half. So I think Pirlo should have made some changes. So maybe take out Rabiot and put Bentancur in. So that's something that I would do. But at the same time, there were a couple of things that felt out of place. So Cuadrado being on the left, and there wasn't a clear right wing back. So I think Pirlo should have basically switched it back to how it was against Sampdoria, with Frabotta on the left and Cuadrado on the right, and should have taken out Kulusevski or Morata. So that's what I would do. But it's easy for us to say this because we already know what happened. So, but I'm pretty sure it was a kind of a tough situation for him. Should I change or should I not? So.
Yeah, the thing with Rabiot is, though, he had some really close calls to getting sent off. And he even did, prior to half, he had one that was like, ooh, I think he's going to get sent off. Early in the second half, I think it was around the 50th minute, maybe 52nd, he had one I thought for sure he was going to be sent off. And I was just thinking, Pirlo, you've got to take him out at this point. I made a call at halftime and put a tweet out there saying that this game could use Arthur for Juventus. Because
I forgot about him. Yeah.
The distribution wasn't there out of the midfield. We were losing possession quite a bit, but some poor passing. So I just thought, you've got this guy, you've brought him in. This might be a game because all you hear about is how well he's doing in training with us. It's almost out of every training session, they're like, oh, Arthur was one of the standouts. Well, here's a game where you're lucky to be in it because Roma had some really good opportunities, and you're not generating a whole lot. Let's get him in there. Let's see what he can do. And that's why I kind of just said, if you were going to take your pick, I could justify either McKennie or Rabiot, but Rabiot was on a yellow and had some questionable calls where you thought maybe he's going to see something. You could almost see it happening, but we get to the second half, and Roma kicks off where they left off. They're countering us again. 50th minute, Szczesny's forced into stopping a shot from Pedro. And then the 55th minute, they counter us hard again. Dzeko, I don't know how he misses this one.
Yeah.
He got the post all alone, right dead in front center goal. I thought maybe a little unlucky not to get a call against him for kind of muscling Cuadrado there. But Cuadrado, this is what you get when you have a makeshift fullback, because he doesn't have – his back post coverage has always been questionable, but He's really easy to get muscled off like that. And if it's Dzeko against Cuadrado in a muscle match, he's never going to win that. We get fortunate. Dzeko hits the post. Right around this time frame, there's somewhere in between 50th, 58th minute, Rabiot gets like 2 calls in quick succession. One of them very, very close to being sent off. Okay. And in the 58th minute, Pirlo makes substitutions and he brings in Douglas Costa and takes Morata off, which I was fine with. He makes a substitution for one of the midfielders. McKennie comes off and Arthur comes in. It was at this point where you're thinking, if you're going to change a midfielder, I just like, it hit me like a ton of bricks because I'm just like, I know McKennie's struggling, but at that point, maybe change both of them and bring in Bentancur as well as Arthur.
Yeah, but because you have 5 subs. And
I thought to leave Rabiot in there with the way he was playing was just flirting with disaster. Hindsight's 2020. I get it, but I literally everybody called it a rookie mistake, and you don't. I don't know. Sometimes you get that sense when you could see how a guy's playing. Rabiot's really strong defensively. I think his defensive game gets overlooked. He's smooth on the ball and stuff, but in this one, he was getting a lot of fouls called on him. And I think it's just one of those, you have to see that, right? But if you're going to make a sub for a midfielder, and it's just frustrating too, because he ends up bringing in Bentancur anyways, a few minutes later after Rabiot gets his second yellow, because 4 minutes after this substitute, Rabiot sees his second yellow, he gets sent off. 6 minutes after that, Ramsey gets taken off for Bentancur. Now, again, even in the 10-man situation, Juve's kind of maintaining the possession. But again, Roma's just fine with it because there's no real serious threats coming from it. And they're countering us and they're going back and forth. You're not really sure what's going to happen. Almost seemingly out of nowhere, in the 69th minute, Danilo makes a move and pushes. And he puts in a great cross. And Ronaldo jumps almost the second this thing was crossed, and he just hangs in midair like Ronaldo does. And he gets this header, and it goes in 2-2. And I'm almost laughing at how undeserved this draw is currently. And I'm thinking, my God, if we can push now and steal this, it would be so demoralizing for not only Roma, but all of Serie A if we could do.
And if you notice, the Ronaldo header was so crazy. So in front of him, there were 5 Roma players. They were on one line, 5 players trying to block the cross. And it was a beautiful header. So
it was a great goal. And Danilo did great. And I thought Danilo had a solid game. And that was pretty much it. In the 85th minute, we saw Frabotta come in for Kulishevsky. And again, Juve seemed to put in this little wave of pressure through corner kicks and everything towards the end, but nothing seriously threatening or anything like that. Game ends 2-2. You have a lot of frustration, and I get it because we were very, very fortunate to see a draw. We talked about Roma's missed opportunities, Tech making a couple big saves, Dzeko hitting the post, and us really being very, very fortunate to bury 2 out of very few opportunities, the one being a PK. I think when you look at this match, hopefully Pirlo is a quick learner. He will have to be. But I think he got a lot of answers. Number 1 being Cuadrado on the left. That's a no-go. We simply can't do that anymore. At the back, this is a really tough one because, I see a lot of people took this formation and said it was a 4-4-2, but it really didn't play that way. It was supposed to be a 3-4-1-2 or a 3-4-3. But it just didn't work. Kulishevsky needs to be in an area where he's effective. We took him out of the game ourselves. Our back line did not keep a high press. I don't know if Pirlo called that, but that was off. Morata was not up to it. So there's a lot of things here that, could play in. I think Pirlo, he definitely has the balls to try things and do what he, and figure it out. And we have to realize this guy had one match against Novara before going into the season. So he's going to have to find these answers while we go through the season, which is very, very tough for any coach. This match, I'm thankful we didn't drop full points. I will gladly take that 1 point because it was undeserved. But I think he's got such little videotape and game time to actually work with that it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. AJ, your thoughts?
So it was always going to be a tough game. So we have many new players, and the game is away at the Olimpico, and there was rain. We also had the red card against Rabio, which was avoidable, but it's still tough. So we managed to get a point, which I didn't expect, and I felt that in the final 10 or 15 minutes, we did not look like the team that was a man's down. So Roma were not pushing for victory. It was Juve that was pushing for victory, so which was surprising to me. But if I was to look at the bright side, Arthur did so well in this game. So he's so good at keeping the ball when he's under pressure, and we have really lacked that type of player. So given that many of the chances that we concede, it's basically us giving the ball away and then the other team getting a counter attack. Having someone who can keep the ball like Arthur is going to be crucial, and I think it's going to help improving the team. But it's also good to get some kind of a reality check, especially that the transfer window is still open. So this will basically help drive those decisions in the remaining week of the transfer window. So I was a little disappointed that we did drop points, but it's still very early in the season, and Pirlo will have to learn quickly. So
yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's not as bad as it could have been. I think the positive has to be the fact that I think you, in this circumstance last season, doesn't pull that off. I think we wouldn't have had that fight in us, to be honest. So that's one positive we could take out of it, is it seems like Pirlo's got these guys on his side for sure. They're able to fight, grind through that. And a lot of fans kind of felt that way, and I was one of them. I don't think, honestly, last season we fight the way we did, and put our heads down and grind for that. And really, when we went down to 10 men, we played better football than we did when we had the full lineup. And it's just funny how that works sometimes. But I
wonder if that's mainly because of Arthur, so it could be. But
Arthur was very, very impressive. I liked what I saw out of him. So strong on the ball, composed all the time. But he's got a little drive to him too. Saw him get the ball in a little more advanced areas and looking to beat his man and push the play, and I like that. We need that more out of those midfielders, just to bring in that extra defender so that we could start to slide these passes in behind to Morata, Ronaldo, hopefully Kulishevsky in the proper positioning. We need somebody in that midfielder to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and start doing that and really driving the play. But it'll be interesting to see. My standouts in this one, Danilo and Cristiano Ronaldo. I saw Danilo get some really harsh scores on ratings out there, and I thought that was pretty unfortunate for him. I thought this was one of his better matches, easily our best one out of the three CBs, in my honest opinion. But those are my two standouts. AJ, your thoughts on players before we get to Twitter questions?
Yeah, so I definitely agree with you that Danilo did well. And I think we should give credit to Pirlo because he's willing to try out so many new things. So the fact that he managed to get the best out of Danilo at this point is pretty encouraging. And CR7 was good too, and Arthur. So those were the three main players that stood out for me.
Yeah, I agree. And Pirlo actually was questioned about Danilo, and today actually said that, Danilo is a player of international level, and there's no coincidence that he's been at Real, City, and Juventus. So, yeah, I mean, take it for what's worth. I definitely see a much better player in that center back role than I did at either one of the fullback positions, to be honest. But that's just me. Twitter questions. So these are always fun and could be all over the map because they come out right after the match and emotions are running high. But Lewis writes in, where do you think Pirlo got it wrong? What would you do differently? So I think we've kind of covered that somewhat, but the hindsight's 2020. I think he definitely got it wrong on his placement and personnel. That's all I'm going to say as far as where he got it wrong. AJ?
Yeah, so, I mean, the two obvious things was Cuadrado being at left back and not subbing out Rabiot where he should have been. And also situations like the second goal that we conceded. So the players shouldn't be in the penalty area. So that should be, I think that's the responsibility of the manager. So in those kinds of situations, he should be the one instructing them to not be too adventurous when you don't need to.
Yeah, a little bit more of the game management, which is the one thing he's going to get with time, right? Like that's just stuff you've got to live and you got to learn. And sometimes it's the hard way, like we found out there. AJ, what would you do differently? So if we are saying that the personnel, the placement was the issue, what do you do differently? We've got Napoli up ahead. And this brings us to another question. James Martino kind of asking, do Arthur and Benta leapfrog the first two pivots and get the start versus Napoli?
I think it's hard to tell, like who should start against Napoli. So between Arthur, Bentancur, and McKennie, I would probably trust Arthur and Bentancur the most. So McKennie is promising, but he still needs to learn like the tactics of Serie A because they are very different from the Bundesliga. And Napoli do have like many experienced players. So what I think Pirlo should do, or what I would do, is play or have the same personnel or similar to the game against Sampdoria, the first one, where we have Frabotta on the left, maybe Cuadrado on the right, and up top, Ronaldo with Kulusevski or Ronaldo with Morata. So either of those two. I think having Kulusevski, Morata, Ronaldo, and Ramsey makes the team a little unbalanced and too offensive. So the balance was definitely much, much better in the game that we played against Sampdoria. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. We just kind of lost the balance there, but I'm really curious to see how they address the amount of space that we had that were vulnerable against Roma. Because at the end of the day, it's still shaped up the same. It's just, I get it. Kulusevski's going to play that position much, much differently than Cuadrado. I'm curious to see if they can set it straight with those with the backline, Bonucci and Chiellini and Danilo, who I expect to be back there We know De Ligt will be out until November. Demiral is healthy. So
that's good.
This is another thing to look at. Arthur and Bentancur, should they start versus Napoli? I think Arthur, I would probably give him a go. Bentancur, I'm okay with him playing as well because, honestly, I like all the guys in there. We know Rabiot now is going to have to sit the one out anyways, so he's out of the question. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to go with Bentancur and Arthur as those pivots. I'm a little bit curious to see when he becomes one of those pivots, Arthur's defensive abilities. Because with Rabiot and McKennie back there, you get two that are strong defensively, especially McKennie. That's kind of his big claim, is his ball-winning abilities. I wonder if we lose a bit of that with Arthur. So it'll be interesting to see. But I would be perfectly fine with those two starting versus Napoli. I think right now we still lack a little bit of that creative edge when plan A doesn't work. Against Sampdoria, plan A worked. We were able to switch the field quickly, get it to our wingbacks who were maintaining that width and able to come across the sides and then attack either by cutting in, getting the ball centrally, or crossing the ball over the top. We were able to generate opportunities, create some pressure. We didn't have that against Roma, and we had no plan B. Therefore, a guy like Arthur could help you in that scenario where plan A is not quite working. He can create. I'd be all right with that. Next question, Graham. Just Cuadrado. Why? And that was essentially it. Not really sure why. Cuadrado is a makeshift fullback on the right side, and we can get by. To do that on the left side was just strange gamble.
He's barely okay as a right back, so imagine
it was a head scratcher for sure.
Yeah.
Alex P simply writes in Bonucci. That is frustrating to see a guy who's been around some of the world's best coaching, some of the world's best defenders, and literally play it so bad on 1v1s all the time.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see. It's unbelievable. Last year, I was protecting him quite a bit because I thought this guy did a hell of a job helping integrate the young guys while Chiellini was out for pretty much the entire season. Bonucci was our highest minutes for all players. He chewed up all the minutes. He made errors, but in the grand scheme of things, not a lot for how much he was out there. And obviously, because of his scenario and his situation and what he did when he went to Milan, and whatnot, we use that playing time to protect other players. I hear it with Sandro all the time. Oh, well, Sandro plays a million minutes. Well, Bonucci plays more than him, but we never use that to protect Bonucci. He's just like that snake that gets attacked, and it's fine. I'm fine with it. But this season, it's a big, drastic change from Sampdoria, who he stood out against Sampdoria, but against Roma, he was awful. And to be fair, I love Chiellini, and he was poor as well. Chiellini was bad. Danilo Easy, our center back. Bonucci, I don't know. I have high hopes that, he's got his ball distribution was fantastic against Sampdoria. He just needs the freedom to do that. In a 4-man back system, he loses that. But against Roma, he did nothing with it. He was literally he played no part in this match other than hurting us. It was tough to deal with.
Yeah. And maybe if Chiellini was at his best, then we wouldn't see the weaknesses of Bonucci against Roma. But Chiellini, as much as we love him, has declined physically a lot in the past 2 years. And the other guy that you have is Danilo, who's he's decent at center back, but at the same time, he's not the defender to lean on when you're in trouble. But at the same time, I can't imagine a three at the back formation without Bonucci. So I hope that like those mistakes are not going to be recurring. So if it's a one mistake every like 6 or 7 games, you'll say okay, but you get you benefit from him because he's so good on the ball and he's good in a three at the back formations. So that's what I think.
AJ, could you imagine being Leonardo Bonucci, having to go and sit with Igor Tudor and watch a video of you twerking your ass defensively? Like Igor Tudor must be just, I could picture him just slapping Bonucci and being like, what the hell is the matter with you, man? Because Tudor's one of my favorites all time.
Yeah.
And he is a no-nonsense player. Hard-nosed, physical, like, him, Montero, we had these beasts. And I could just picture him watching that and being like, my God, and the whole time I'm laughing because I'm thinking, man, that is not how you play D when you have to answer to Igor Tudor. So I hope Tudor straightens him out. And
and the guy is like 33. So if he was like a youngster, then but he's already played at Juve for like around 10 years now. And he has over maybe 230 something appearances. So I just don't understand these kinds of mistakes.
It's crazy. I would love to be in the video room though when he released Tudor. He can probably bring in Rugani into that same film room and put together a little compilation for those two. Rome's Juventino writes in, what's our best 3 center back tandem when everyone's fully fit?
Yeah, that's a tough question.
That is a tough one.
Yeah.
You talked about it, and I think when you look at all our players back there, so if we say everybody's fully fit, that's Chiellini, Demiral, De Ligt, Bonucci, Rugani. So
and Danilo, maybe?
Danilo, now that he's used as center back, you're right.
Yeah.
Out of all of those guys, Bonucci's easily the best distributor.
Yeah, he has to be there. Yeah.
I think he's got to take up that role. I mean, I know that there's Juventini. I've seen the tweets. I've seen them all putting out this De Ligt, Demiral, Chiellini back three. But yeah, I mean, De Ligt's
I think that's
okay, but it's nowhere near the level of Bonucci when it comes to long passing. And we do have to factor in Pirlo. And when reading Pirlo's thesis, that's a key element, is that distribution from the back. And it's not only from the center back position, but it's from the goalkeeping position as well. And we've seen it already in 2 matches and 1 exhibition against Novara, how much Szczesny has had to move in comparison to previous years and move out of his area and be that pivot and find those lanes and look for one of those midfielders, Rabiot, McKennie, or Ramsey in behind the lines. So the distribution part is something we just can't ignore. And I think Bonucci's going to find himself in there. For me, it's tough because Chiellini is just, when he's on, he's so ridiculously good. But he has lost a bit. But man, when he's on, it's hard to keep him out of there. But if all of a sudden, let's watch this a little soon, like for a little bit, because it's really hard to answer this right now with such a short period of work under this season, right?
Yeah.
If we watch more matches and it starts to become a guessing game in regards to Giorgio Chiellini, maybe, just maybe, he doesn't make that cut. And then, De Ligt becomes one of those when he's healthy. I think De Ligt has to be honest.
Yeah.
When De Ligt's fit, he's back in there a lock. So that really leaves you, your ball player, Bonucci, and then does Danilo take that other side? Do you put Demirol in there? Or do you go Chiellini? Like, it's a tough one to answer right now.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
Gun to my head. Oh man, it's tough because when we did well against Sampdoria, and even in instances against Roma, we pressed with one of the CBs, and it was Danilo in both those matches.
Yeah, I don't think Demiral would have that technique to be able to press and deliver balls like Danilo does. No, I don't
exactly,
think so.
Right? And I can't see De Ligt being that guy. We know Chiellini isn't that guy. This is crazy, I know, and I know people are going to have backlash here with saying Danilo might have to be in there, but if I can't see that out of one of those other guys, and it's a key part of what succeeded in one of our better matches so far, this is just a really, really tough one to answer, man. It's a tough one to answer.
Yeah, and it's crazy because maybe if we were asked this question like 2 weeks ago, I can't imagine saying, "Oh, Danilo has to be there at center back." So
there's no way in hell you would be saying that. You'd be like, "No." I remember weeks ago when we read the blurb that Pirlo was trying him at center back, and we were thinking, "Oh my God, what the hell are we doing?" But it's been okay. It has. This is a really tough one. Gun to my head, honestly. Oh man. Honestly, right now, gun to my head, I'd probably stick with the same and slot De Ligt in there. And maybe you go De Ligt, Bonucci, Demirol. But this is a hard one. Very, very hard question.
Yeah, right now I'd go for Danilo, De Ligt, and Bonucci. So, but maybe that's going to change in 1 week based on how they play. So
exactly,
because we never know. We're still under
so
construction.
Fresh and see, this is a very, very tough one to answer. And if all of a sudden something else ticks in the lineup and we don't require that out of that position so much, then you could go safer and play two hard nose like your De Ligt and your Demirol and just Bonucci for his ball playing, right?
And we don't know if Pirlo's going to necessarily stick with three at the back. So maybe that's going to change. Yeah.
The thing with Bonucci is if he's in there, you've got to have those hard-nosed guys in there. I don't think you could ever have a situation where you have Bonucci and Rugani out there at the same time, because we've seen that last year and it's bad. It is bad.
Yeah.
Abdul Rahman writes in, and we stick with the center back three. Do you think he should stick with the back three for now, or should we go to a back four? Again, with such a short model of work that we're able to actually review, I think I would stick with it right now.
Yeah.
I think our imbalance against Roma was due to other issues, and it didn't help our guys in any way, shape, or form. There was the midfield that looked like such a strong unit against Sampdoria was a little bit off kilter against Roma, and didn't have the structure that it had against Sampdoria. And again, the line was off. I think he should stick with it though for now. I just think trying to tweak too much, I don't know. It's a tough one. And really, I think it gave us a good amount of support against Sampdoria. When we had those three and we were able to push those outsides up forward, it makes the press a lot easier for us because there's less space to actually have to run to and cover. When we tried to pull off the high press with 4-3-3, there was always an extra man, and we were just trying to cover gaps, and we were running ourselves ragged for no reason. This one allows us to maintain pressure and the possession that we need, that Pirlo wants in his game, a lot easier. And this is the thing, when we look at this match against Roma, you and I discussed it, we actually held possession very well. It was
even with 10 men.
It was finding that edge. It was finding that breakthrough, and we were just lacking some of the ideas structurally in the final third. So I think we stick to it. Luca writes in, do you prefer the attacking style of Pirlo? This, we could concede, but we'll score more type attitude or approach. It's tough. I don't think it's supposed to be so like true full out attacking style, for instance. I think it's supposed to be really balanced. We lost it completely against Roma. I like what he's trying to do. And again, we have 3 matches to talk about. So it's very, very tough to really read a whole lot into this, but let's turn this question into Pirlo and our thoughts so far on what we've seen out of him. Okay. Let's take it there rather than just focus on the attacking style, because I think what he's trying to do, and reading his thesis and whatnot, it all makes good sense. What you maybe lack in the midfield, the 3-5-2 should help, because you're essentially flooding that space with players, able to have constant support, and in turn should be able to, he wants to attack with minimum of 5 players, which is great, because what we've seen the past couple of years is give it to our top 3 guys and let them work their magic. So now we have a little bit more set structure, some more support for those guys. It should work. The main thing with Pirlo, I see that I like, is the players believe in him. They're on his side. We've seen the interviews with Ramsey, Cristiano Ronaldo saying now we're working with smiles on our faces. Obviously a dig at Sarri. Ramsey, same thing. Now we're having fun. Training is much harder, and we get great satisfaction out of it. Are they maybe training too hard? Because a couple of the guys look pretty bagged against Roma right out of the get-go. Maybe. I don't know. They've gone back to the trainer that was around during Conte's days, and we know that the training was intense, to say the least. So they've gone back to that, which I'm fine with, because the fitness is going to be the one thing that's key. And we've seen us reach those later portions of the seasons, these past few seasons, and be absolutely done. So I'm okay with them training harder, bringing in that trainer again. But so far out of Pirlo, I like where it's going. I like what I'm starting to see. AJ, your thoughts on Pirlo so far?
So I like what he's doing. So the main thing that I love about Pirlo so far is that he's very adventurous. He's not afraid of trying things out, whether it's, I know we disagreed with this, whether it's Cuadrado at left back, Kulusevski at top, 3 at the back, Danilo at center back. So he's trying like many new things. At the same time, if you remember, like Sarri and Allegri, both of them were basically sticking to their main personnel. Allegri did have like a plan B kind of thing, but at the same time, Sarri was always sticking with the like same ideas. So I like that Pirlo is bringing that elements, the adventurous elements, into the team, and players have a better attitude, and they seem to like to work with him. And so I think the team is gonna like get slowly better. It's not gonna be an easy transition, new coach, new players, but at the same time, other teams will learn more about Pirlo as he plays more and more, and they'll adjust their tactics. So it was tough for Sampdoria because they didn't know what to expect at all from Pirlo. But now it seems that Roma kind of picked up on his play style in the first game, and other teams will have like more matches to look at, and they will dynamically adjust. So so it's hard to know what's going to happen in the next games. But I love the atmosphere around the players and the club overall. There seems to be some excitement that we missed in previous years.
Yeah, it's refreshing, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's nice to see him on the sideline, wearing a nice suit, looking sharp.
Yep.
Not a guy that looks like he just woke up and he's in his pajamas. And looks like he was on a bender for a week. But yeah, Tommy Sankar writes in, I always thought Morata was overrated. That thought got stronger after this match. What do you think? Yeah, is Morata always been overrated? Who was your number one choice out of all the guys we got linked with?
That's a tough question. Like for each player, there are like some positive and negative sides.
Yeah,
but I'm a big Morata fan, so I've always wanted him to come back. When it was between Suarez and Dzeko, I was leaning Suarez because it's a little more exciting. He's like a world-class striker. But to be honest, like if I had to choose anyone, I would choose Morata. So there is some nostalgia element, but I don't think we need a striker who scores 30 goals. Like we already have that in Ronaldo. So if Morata can be like a supporting striker, I know that his numbers weren't great even at Juve, but at the same time, he did have like a decent number of assists, and he did do well in so many top Champions League games. And yeah, so even I was surprised that he has probably scored maybe just as many or slightly more goals in the Champions League than Dybala. So it's too early to judge Morata. It's his first game. It's an away game, and many other players did not do well. But I guess time will tell. But it's kind of strange in hindsight now, because we were thinking, oh, the missing piece in this team is going to be the number 9. But I think it's going to be more about the overall system and how Pirlo is going to fit the different pieces together. Because we did get the number 9, and we did not necessarily play much better than Sampdoria. And there are some other factors, so it's not that simple.
Yeah. That's an absolutely great point, and it was something I was going to bring up. As far as Morata being overrated, I don't know. I've never really seen him highly rated, to be honest. He's I've never seen anybody go crazy over Morata to think to the point this guy's overrated. I think he's a good player. I think a few of those places he's been at, he did not fit the systems. Okay, when he was with Juve, he was a killer. He was a killer for Juve. There was a strong argument back in the day to pay the 45 and keep him and spread out the rest of the Pogba money amongst other roles in the club, rather than spend almost all of the Pogba money on Gonzalo Higuain. The reason that discussion came up was because Morata was a killer.
I think the main reason,
Oh, sorry, go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, the main reason people call him overrated is that he transferred for super high transfer fees. From Real Madrid to Chelsea, he was very overpriced, and at the same time from Chelsea to Atletico. So, yeah.
And more than that making him overrated, that's just, we're used to Juve selling, and clubs sell a lot better than us. They're able to actually get money for their players. I don't think that should go against Morata, what those clubs were able to get financially for him. I think he's a good player. He is very, very much a systems guy, though. And when you look at Atletico and the way they play, well, even a incredible talent like João Felix, he struggles there because it's such a defensive game that they play, and it's just literally trying to live off these counters. And Chelsea, Morata stint there, same thing, like a club that was in flux. With Real, he did decent with Real, and of course they were star-studded, so I'd expect that. But with Juve, he was a killer. I was excited to get him back. Biggest thing was the deal was right, but it's something I've been saying and documented on this podcast is I didn't feel this crazy need for a striker like the Dzeko, the Suarez, the Milik. Like I was like, let's get a young guy that could rotate in with the guys that we have. A guy that has a little bit of flexibility to him, but somebody that's an aerial threat. Because that's the one thing with Suarez, that didn't quite make sense. Because I was just like, well, you'd want a guy like that has an aerial presence, because we have these guys. Like Paulo doesn't have any aerial presence, but I didn't want Paulo Dybala to be put on the back seat for a striker, a guy that was going to come in, chew a ton of minutes up and be this guy. I also didn't see it making a drastic change in our gameplay. The biggest thing I've always said this team needs is fullbacks that are gonna actually like join the attack and provide that cutting edge. And I still say, because we were going to finish up on this topic of what would be, if we have one more move, what would you address? And for me, it's hands down, we need a fullback that can play on the right side as a right wing back. I know the rumors are out there of Bernardeschi being adapted to a wing back. There's the rumor of Chiesa coming in is to be a wing back. And for me, are we going to make a 60 million euro move for a wing back? That's crazy to me. And Chiesa just started playing this position. Otherwise, he was always a right winger. So we've got a right winger we converted to a wing back. Why are we going to sell Costa and bring in another experiment? We have the Juan Cuadrado experiment already. So it's all crazy to me. But AJ, like, what's a move? What would be your focus on one more move?
I know it's controversial, but I would get Chiesa. So I think
you would,
I would. I think one main thing, I mean, there's obviously a reason the club is interested in him, and it's been a while. I think we're missing a right-footed right winger who's good at crossing the ball. So when we have someone like Ronaldo and Morata in the penalty area, it's hard for Bernardeschi or Douglas Costa to cross the ball because they always have to cut inside, and it never really worked. Yeah. So I'm not going to say I'm 100% want Chiesa and it's the one move that we need. But I think that he does bring an elements that we're missing. And if you notice in the Roma game, it took Danilo to go from center back all the way to cross the ball to Ronaldo, because there's no one else to do that thing. So so if Chiesa comes, I wouldn't hit that move. But at the same time, I feel that I don't know, is there like a top right wing back available right now? So Dest is off to Barcelona. So I don't know if there is an available player who would be a good fit. So what do you think, Alberto?
Well, that's just it. I mean, the only links we've heard of, rumors, are obviously Bauer, right? Yeah. Dest was another one. And then obviously Chiesa. And the Chiesa one's been heavy for a while, way before our need of a right wing back. When we were running the 4-3-3, they wanted him as a winger. And honestly, I like Chiesa as a player. I like his traits. I like his characteristics. I think he's a good player. I think he needs to break away from Fiorentina, to be honest. The only thing I've never liked about him is his price tag. It's always been crazy inflated.
I think, the main reason is there are not many, like the right-wing market overall is not that hot. So it's hard to think of good right-wingers in Serie A.
And I mean, more on this Chiesa thing, apparently the personal terms, they were agreed to last season, and they're still holding that firm with him currently, which is a 5-year contract for a 5 million euro a year salary. And apparently that's still good. They just need to finalize the deal with Fiorentina. But it's just not going to amount to anything if we can't move somebody.
Yeah.
Costa, you know, who else could we possibly move? DeScilio, Rugani. I can't see Rugani moving. DeScilio, maybe there's a deal somewhere, but I can't see it. And apparently 60 million euros Fiorentina's looking for, and they will not sell them beyond, they put out a date. It's basically got to be settled before the last 3 days of the Mercato, because they will not sell them in that short time frame, 24 to 48 hours. So
I think, Fiorentina are still in a little bit of a weak position here because if I'm not wrong, his contract expires in maybe 2 or 3 years. So from now on, his value is only gonna drop. But yeah, like clubs will always like ask for a super high transfer fee when they know that a club is interested, especially if it's Juve. And it's crazy that Dest was sold to Barcelona for a very low transfer fee. I was like shocked. Now we're trying to get Chiesa for like a very inflated price. But I think, yeah, an important part, as you mentioned, is the wages. So if it's right now, 5 million a year is not a very high salary. So it's reasonable given that even Khedira is on 6 million per year. So
it's not a bad salary. I mean, his price tag, it'll be up in the air based on what happens this season. I mean, if he has a great year, it'll stay the same, maybe increase a bit, but I don't know. It's tough to say. That's just, I still see it as just a lot of money. There's we have an experiment in Quadrado. Bernardeschi, how do you feel about Bernardeschi in that position? Do you think he could do okay there? He's left-footed player, I know, so it'd be one of those inverted wing backs.
Yeah, I'd rather have him at left wing back, maybe as a backup to Sandro, but him being on the right side, like, never really worked. So we have tried this again and again, especially last season at right wing, and he was always making the wrong decisions. I do appreciate that he plays like so many games and he has an incredible stamina and he runs a lot. But if you were to feel optimistic about him, you would say, oh, look at what Pirlo did to Danilo. Now he's playing good at center back. And look at what he did with Ramsey. He played like an incredible game against Sampdoria. So maybe he can get something out of Bernardeschi, but it's also going to get down to the financial side. So if there's some person who's willing to pay a lot for Bernardeschi, which I don't think there is, then that's going to change the dynamics.
Well, when we can't say it without laughing.
Yeah.
I think we know what the answer is there.
Bernardeschi,
I mean,
I've lost hope in him cutting inside.
It's just, again, it's that it's just the fact that it's a project, and Chiesa would be a project. It's not like a certainty, so it's a lot to commit to. However, you give us flexibility. We don't know if Pirlo will stick with the 3-5-2. We don't know.
He
could change it up. Chiesa could be a winger. You talk about it. What are the options? There's not a lot. Chiesa isn't even really an option unless we make some moves. Somebody asked me today if there was any truth to this rumor that had popped up today, and I had to laugh because it was Hernandez from Milan to Juve for Rugani and Bernardeschi, and I said no. And I love how they worded it. There are circulating rumors. So basically we needed something to post to get some hits. So this is what we put out there. There's no sources named.
Especially it's parallel with the Agnelli visit to the Milan headquarters. So
exactly. There was talks about Telles, Alex Telles, for a 29 million, somewhere around there. That's a left back though, and then what do we have to do? Then all of a sudden you have to move Sandro. If there were an offer for Sandro on the table, would you take it if it was a good one? And then that means bringing in somebody at a lower price like a Telles, and you could address your right wing back scenario as well with the funds.
I wouldn't. So I think that Sandro, like even the worst Alexander is not really that bad. So if he's having a bad game, he's not like extremely bad. And I think he's solid. He did establish like a high standard because he was so good in 2016 and 2017. But I feel that like we're already struggling in the fullback position. So selling Sandro is going to be like a big gamble because you're going to assume that the guy who's going to come in is going to be much better than Sandro. And I can't imagine, like, as bad as he has been recently, I can't imagine like many other left backs around who would do like a better job than he does. And also maybe like in a three at the back formation, he's going to have a bit more freedom to go out and attack because he's like a solid player all around. So he can dribble, he can pass, and he can defend. So maybe that would take some of the defensive, the three at the back formation, maybe it's going to take some of the defensive pressure off of him. And we'll see a bit of 2017 Alexandro. But I think that would be like selling him at this point is going to be very adventurous. Yeah, and I don't know that much about Telles. I think he plays for Porto, if I'm not mistaken. And he gets linked with every club in every transfer window. See, he's like the go-to transfer rumor for many like websites.
So he's Juve's
yeah.
Darmian,
basically. Yeah. Yeah, we haven't heard those in a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just it's tough. Sandro, I've been heavily critical of him for a while, just because there's a big drop off from when that first year, a couple of years. But it's a drop off where it's like he's so solid defensively, but there's no balance to it. He doesn't give enough offensively. However, when he was at his best, it was in this 3-5-2. And recently I've been saying, I hope he can find that form where he was once out with us. But the other thing with Sandro is if there's a good offer out there for him, I mean, he's what, 30 now? 29?
Yeah. I think, he was born in 1990, so either 29 or 30.
Yeah, so, you run the risk of getting to a point with a guy where, sooner or later that value goes away, and maybe you take that, Frabota's not the immediate answer, but he's promising, and you bring somebody else in if you can get somebody at a decent price that's got some experience at that position. And if that move also allowed you to address another spot, it'd be a really hard one to say no to. But for the most part, let's see what happens. I hope they sort out the right wing back scenario. It has to be, be sorted out. And we'll see where we go from there. Real quick, as we wrap up the pod, the legendary, iconic Alessandro Del Piero has come out, and he said the favorites are Merda and Atalanta. That's okay, Del Piero, because I know you were smiling when you said it, and you're just relieving your good friend Andrea Pirlo of pressure in his first stint as a coach. So it's okay. We're still good, Del Piero. But AJ, are we still the favorites?
So, like, given that we won 9 in a row, I think regardless of who the coach is, we should be the favorites. But would I be surprised if Inter won the Scudetto? No. So, obviously Del Piero knows like much more than we do, and he's giving his opinion, but history is on our side. But given that we have a new coach and a new system, it wouldn't be surprising for me to see another team win it. So what do you think?
I said it, I think 2 podcasts ago when we were doing the season preview, and even watching the matches, the commentators are all picking Merda, and they're just like, Merda will win it this year. And I'm fine with that. I actually I like that. I like it for Pirlo. It gives him an easy way to motivate this club.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you're almost being disrespected as a 9-time straight champion, you know,
yeah,
and
yeah,
they're already ruling you out and waiting for like any slip ups here and there, and just everybody's just waiting for it. And it just gives Pirlo easy motivation for these guys. And I'm happy. I'm fine with it if nobody picks us.
plus it's
Because yeah,
gonna, yeah,
it's not one, like even looking at this match, and we dropped a couple points and stuff, but the Scudetto is not won it's
yeah,
not one in the first few weeks. It's not one in the first month even. So I'm fine with it. Nobody
plus it's
picking us.
gonna, yeah, it's gonna
That's
put
fine.
pressure on Conte,
Yeah.
and I think, yeah, a team like Merida, they're not used to being the favorites to winning the Scudetto, and if they're being picked up, then that's gonna add so much pressure, and it's gonna add to the expectations, and they may fall apart like at some point. Yeah.
That's a great point. And even teams like Atalanta, look at Lazio last season. As those expectations
Yeah.
increase and that pressure increases, you start to see what you truly are as a club. Juve
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
faced that year in, year out, all the time, historically.
Yeah.
These clubs have not. And now the fact that that pressure is on there. I even said it last year when Conte was building this anti-Juve, and everybody
Yeah.
said they are the anti-Juve. I said, I don't give a shit until I see them come and play us. You
Yeah.
want to be the top dog, come into our house and take it. Take it from us. And they couldn't do it. They didn't do it
Yeah.
last season. And then the same's going to be this year. I want to see it. Because no matter what with Juve, manager, players, whatever, we rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
And I
And
truly believe that we will do that. And I think Pirlo's in this flux, but he's gonna figure it out. I have faith in him. I have faith in Pirlo. But I
and
love it.
it's gonna be even more beautiful this year, given that Inter have structured their entire transfer policies around Conte, and they have given him every player. So if he fails to win the Scudetto, then and Conte gets sacked, then the other coach will inherit a mess, because you have players like Kolarov and Perisic and Vidal, who are going to be so hard to use for that coach. They're like more
Yeah.
of a Conte type of players. So this year
And
is going to be even more beautiful.
Fiorentina. What are you guys doing? You had that match.
Yeah, yeah,
Vlahovic, you should have been roped to the back of the bus and told to run home behind it. Unbelievable. Um, yeah, they
yeah,
squeaked one out. They don't scare me. We struggled against Roma. We'll figure it out. It's the second official match for Pirlo. I have faith. Um, let them have the pressure. Let them have the expectations. You guys are the favorites. Cool. Take it. Take that pressure. Take that added weight. Let's see what you can do with it. We'll be around, and let's see what Juve can do. I'm as
yeah.
optimistic as ever. I have faith. The one thing with Pirlo is, have your expectations changed, AJ? What were your expectations with Sarri, and what were your expectations with Pirlo? And this will be our last question. We'll
Yeah.
finish on this.
So with Sarri, the expectations for me was the Scudetto plus reaching maybe the semifinal of the Champions League and having a better style. So none of those things happened. And I know people were saying, "Oh, just give Sarri his players, buy him like Sarri ball players." But at the same time, I think it's risky to engineer the entire team around one coach, because the moment that coach leaves, then you're left with a Jorginho on an 8 million per year salary and a long-term contract, and
Yeah.
it's just gonna add into the financial troubles of the club. So I think we should just get players such that any coach can use them, because you'll never know. Maybe it's not going to work. So with Pirlo, I'm more of a results person, so I'd rather us win the Scudetto and play ugly than play beautiful and lose it. So I think at the end we will all judge Pirlo based on whether he's going to win the Scudetto or not. If he goes far in the Champions League and if he eliminates like a top side by playing beautiful, maybe people are going to give him a pass on not winning the Scudetto. But for me, I think he has to win the Scudetto. And I think one other thing I'm expecting is to restore the spirit which we have been missing for a while. And so far we're seeing pretty good signs. So we were clumsy against Roma, but at the same time, let's not forget, Dybala, Alexandro are injured. Cuadrado was playing at left wing back, and the entire team was a mess. But at the same time, we did get a point. And yeah, so there are like many reasons to feel optimistic. If Sarri was still the coach, I wouldn't feel as much optimistic in any way. So yeah.
That's great. I agree with a lot of what you said. Now, when Sarri had come aboard, there's almost this instant expectations. We were just talking about it with Juve. They're always surrounding Juve. And many Juventini feel that regardless who it was, when you step in, the bare minimum is winning the Scudetto.
Yeah.
And if you do not win that, you should be sacked. And it's pretty intense. And I had to say through last season with Sarri, I said, it's very, very hard because you don't want to set the precedents. The expectation is always to win with this club. You don't want to start lowering the bar. But I said it would come down to the circumstances. It's always that context.
Yeah.
Has the team progressed? Is the team playing much better? Does the team look like they can compete on all fronts? The identity, is the identity coming back? Sarri had none of that going for him. And we stumbled across the finish line. With Pirlo, if we go trophyless, should he stay? My answer is the same as when it was with Sarri. It depends. If we play great football, if our identity is rejuvenated, if he can even start to blend in some of these U23s here and there, and we could bring up their value and start actually selling well, actually making good positive sales or incorporating them into the team, I see then there's a lot of positives, and then you got to take it in there. But if it's disjointed, broken, if nothing's really progressing, I don't know. At the same time, it depends. It depends who's out there. Who's out there, who fits the Juve mold, what's going to go. Like, the one thing with Pirlo is it feels right. It feels good. Definitely. It's refreshing. And it's not the nostalgia of him being our player. It's just, it feels good. It's nice to hear the players talk in this manner when it was clear as day Sarri did not have this team behind him. And there was all sorts of issues there. You talked about it. Are you going to replace one man or an entire team? It's an easy answer every time. The leader goes and you find a new leader. Pirlo has the players on his side. He says all the right things. I love his press conferences. They're straightforward, to the point, and he's not going to shy away from what he believes. That's going to instill into the players. It's going to leak down. It's going to have positive effect. Right now, all our situations, our issues are pretty minor in the grand scheme of things because it's only been 2 flipping games. Give this guy some time. I think it's going to be okay. We'll be fine. Our team, on paper, in my opinion, has improved over last year.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, let's give these guys the time.
Yeah, happened like suddenly. Like it felt as if like we were unable to offload anybody, and we can't find a striker. but a couple of smart moves like the McKennie, the Arthur swap with Pjanic, and we suddenly look really good. So yeah.
Yeah, we look good. It's going to take time. They got to put it together. They got to put it together on the pitch, and that's going to take time. It's going to take time. We saw a really promising match against Sampdoria. It fell off kilter against Roma, but he tried a few things. He went a little risky. It could have ended up bad. It didn't end up in the worst possible scenario, but I have full faith he'll figure it out. I mean, what he showed us in such a short period of time, it was actually quite a drastic change in play, overall play. We have to appreciate that somewhat and definitely have faith in these guys. We still have a lot of talent. Paulo Dybala hasn't even set foot on the pitch yet. You know, let's wait and see what happens in this new shape and this new style, this new format, what happens there. We still have no idea. Sandro's been injured.
And Delict.
Experiment Quadra. Kulishevsky has still not been utilized to his max potential, in my opinion. Pirlo will find it. He will piece it together. Arthur still has to put his stamp on this club, which I believe he will. But it's bright. The future is bright. Yeah. It's promising. And it's just that feeling year in, year out, since we've been on this absolute tear, when the threat of losing it is there, Juventini get a little funny. We get a little funny. And it's only 2 matches in. Don't get scared. Don't get nervous. Have faith. We are Juventus. Let the others prove they're worthy of taking the throne if they want it. Nobody's proven it yet. Way too early. Stick behind Pirlo. He's going to make things right. AJ, any closing thoughts, topics, or anything you want to address before we sign off?
Yeah, so there are a lot of reasons to feel optimistic despite the result against Roma. So as you mentioned, we're yet to see Arthur and Kulishevsky to their maximum potentials, and it's been only 2 matches. But I finally feel excited to watch Juve. So I did not get that feeling in the last maybe 2 or 3 years. So the next weeks, they're not going to be easy, but at the same time, there is some excitement element which has been restored. So, yeah.
That's great. That's a great finish. And you're absolutely right. It's a different feel now. I am with you. I'm excited to watch Juve play now, which I can't honestly say it's been that way for quite some time. Last year was a struggle. It was a struggle towards halfway through to the end. But we know we've got Napoli coming up on the weekend, another big match. Couple tricky ones here with Roma and then Napoli. Your expectations in this Napoli one, if you want to throw a prediction, go ahead. But what are you thinking going into this one?
So I think the game is going to be slightly consequential. So if I'm afraid if we don't win the game, then we're basically on a 2-game winless streak, which is not good for the mentality of the player. And I don't want Pirlo to lose his confidence at this point. So, and if I recall correctly, there's going to be an international break after this game. Maybe I could be wrong, but I think it's pretty important to win this game because that would give Pirlo and the players lots of confidence. So prediction, I would say 2-0 Juve. Yeah.
Nice. Well, we know it's going to be at home in the home stadium. Yeah. It's going to be tough. It's a big one. I think Pirlo's going to not make that same mistake twice. I think the team will get up for it. They'll know the importance of this one. I think we'll grind it out. It'll be a tough one. I think Juve pulls it out 3-2. And we'll get that win. And then, yes, you're right, international break.
Yeah. With the Koulibaly own goal in the 93rd minute.
Yeah, there you go. The Koulibaly own goal. What a moment. But yeah, that's great. So yeah, thank you for joining me, AJ. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And we'll be back, of course, after that match against Napoli with another post-match podcast with another guest. Enjoy that one. It's going to be a big, big match. And I'll be in touch with all of you on Twitter, of course. Anyone who wants to take part in one of these podcasts or take part in the discussions, the handle is @AllJuvecast. You can follow me there. Thanks again. And as always, until next time, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.
Ciao.